Hi there, Cornell here from Piping Petals. Welcome to my online tutorial for working with colours, piping bags and American buttercream. The secret to beautiful buttercream flowers is a combination of piping skills and well chosen and executed colouring. It's like yin and yang. You can't have one without the other. Whether you want a lifelike realistic colour scheme or a bold eye-catching effect, we're going to look at a variety of colours today. So I often get asked, how long does it take me to make a cupcake bouquet? So let me share a little secret with you. It often takes me longer to prepare the colours and fill my piping bags correctly than it takes me to actually pipe the buttercream flowers. Probably not what you expected me to say, but that is my insider tip for a successful cupcake bouquet. It's all in the prep. In this tutorial, I'm going to demonstrate how to achieve some colours, some which are deceivingly difficult to get right. Red, black, baby blue, purple, just to name a few. We're then going to look at different ways to fill your piping bags to create a multicoloured look on your petals and leaves. I'm going to show you 6 of my methods, which I use on quite a regular basis. Firstly, the circular two-tone, which is typically used in a rosette swirl, hydrangeas and Russian tips. Secondly, an accentuated edge, which I use quite on a regular basis for my rose, daisy and ranunculus. An accentuated dual edge, used for chrysanthemums. A multiple accentuated stripes, which is a really clever way to add that extra dimension with leaves and greenery. A two-tone single outer edge, used in a lot of flower designs, including the peony, carnation and pine cone, to name a few. And then probably the most complicated one that I use is the two-tone double edge with an accentuated middle. And this I use for my lilies, which is part of the advanced buttercream flower course. You could also use it for the protea. This course focuses on colours and piping bags only, but if you would also like to know how to pipe the buttercream flowers that we're referring to in this course, then please refer to the relevant online tutorials for that. Let's get started. So we're going to start with sunflower yellow, which is not just a simple yellow. We're going to make that warm tint you see with sunflowers. So I've got some American buttercream ready to go. If you want to know how to make this buttercream, please refer to the Blooming Bakes YouTube channel for my recipe for the best buttercream to use for buttercream flowers. So we're going to have a few scoops in here because I want to make quite a few flowers with this. And I'm going to use the Rainbow Dust Pro Gel colouring to colour my buttercream. Don't use any liquid colouring that you buy from grocery stores because it's going to change the consistency of your buttercream. As you can see, it's quite a thick consistency. You can take it up in a blob like that. And you want to keep it like that so that your petals can stand up in the air. So gel colours is the best to use for this. Now I'm going to start with just adding yellow. And I'm going to show you how you change the tint on that. If you get really practice with this, you can put all your colours in at the same time. What's really nice about the Pro Gel colouring is it comes in this nice tube, which is mostly quite neat, and you don't get your hands full of gel colouring. So I'm just going to mix that in. Now, I have been asked, why do I mix by hand? Like, why don't you just pop it all in a stand mixer and put the electric whisk on and mix it all like that? Well, I would say there's 2 reasons really. Firstly is you've got more control doing it manually, adding a little bit of gel colouring, and you can actually just mix it on the side just to see what it looks like before you mix it through all of your buttercream. But secondly, and quite an important reason, is as you can see, I'm pushing against the side like this to mix my colouring in. So I'm not just doing a mix like this, I'm pushing against the side, and you're basically pushing all the air bubbles out of your buttercream, which is not a massive problem for buttercream flowers, but it is nice to have a smooth consistency. So there we go. So as you can see, that is now quite a bright canary yellow. which is not what the sunflower looks like. So we're going to add a bit of red. If you add red to a different color, you're really using a tiny, tiny amount. So we're going to squeeze that out. And it's literally a pinprick. A pinprick of red that we're going to add to our yellow coloring. You can always add more. So start with a tiny bit, and if you need more, add more. If you start with too much, can you see the difference there? And that's why you add a pinprick only. As I say, you can always add more if you don't get the warm tones you're looking for. Red is a very funny color, as I say. It's tricky to get red buttercream, but add it to a different color and it's like a bomb shock on the color. It's really potent. Almost going to an orangey tint, but still having quite a bit of yellow hue in it. And that is what a sunflower looks like. It's got that warm sunflower feel to it, rather than canary yellow. So I'm going to fill a piping bag with some of this sunflower yellow, not with any multicolored effects, just a straightforward fill your piping bag, just to show you how to do that. So I have a nozzle I'm going to use, I have my piping bag, very economical piping bag, and we're going to snip the end off roughly to the size of your nozzle. Put that to one side. You don't want to get the end of your piping bag in your buttercream. Pop your nozzle in, pointy bit first, pull it tight. So I like to tip my bag inside out a little bit. You're almost creating a collar. Pull it over your hand. You almost create a wall with your fingers so that you can use your fingers to scoop off the buttercream onto the bag when you put it in. Let me demonstrate to you. So a nice blob of buttercream, squeeze it in, and I'm using my thumb to just pull it all off the spoon. Okay, all in your bag. And then you just wrap it back up. Squeeze it all down, pull your nozzle tight, twist your bag at the top, and there we have it, beautiful piping bag. We're going to set this aside and we'll do some buttercream flowers. Right, next up we're going to look at a warm orange. You'll see I'm using the exact same bowl that we've just used for yellow. Don't feel like you need to use a million bowls for different colors, because actually orange is very closely related to yellow, so you can just use the same bowl with a bit of planning. Okay, so following the similar fashion, we're going to add our orange, add a nice blob of orange. We will mix this first just to show you the original color of the orange before we add something to change the shade of it. But as I said, once you get comfortable with your colors, you can just add everything at one go, mix it all together. I actually really rarely use a single color from a tube. I almost always mix different colors together. It's just to get the exact color you want. You know, I get customers who ask me for duck egg color. I get customers who ask for a cerise pink, not a normal pink. So you have to play around with your colors a little bit just to get exactly what you want and fit your theme, right? So you can see, as with the yellow, coming out of the tube, this is quite a stark orange, not something I would necessarily describe as very natural. So similar fashion to the yellow, we're going to add a bit of red. tiniest prick of red, just like we did with the yellow. Just a tiny prick of red. And it's just going to give us a little bit of a darker and warm orange. Right, so see, if I mix it just like that, you can already see the massive effect that the red's got. And that's why you add just a very tiny bit to start with. We'll talk about this a little bit later when we make our actual red buttercream, but color develops over time. So with a dark color like red, you want to also be really careful not to add too much, because tomorrow your color is going to be darker. It just develops over time, so you want to make sure you don't go too dark. So as you can see, it's added a little bit of warmth to my orange, and I'm going to leave it at this shade because I'm going to add a multicolored effect for my chrysanthemum. Okay, so we're going to use the orange and the yellow we've just made, and I'm going to show you two methods for filling your piping bags with multicolored effects. So the first one we're going to do is our circular two-tone, and I'm going to demonstrate it with Russian tips. So if you have never come across Russian tips, it's a very, very popular thing in the cake world. They are big fat nozzles like this, and they come in a variety of shapes and patterns. Very popular for tulip pattern. In the UK, you also have something called nifty nozzles, which is a very similar thing. So I'm going to use one of these, and we're going to fill our bag with a circular two-tone. It's quite a big nozzle, so you're going to snip off a lot of your bag. Tip to one side. So you can see I haven't snipped off enough. I'm going to snip off a little bit more. There we go, that is a nice fit. Be very careful with your Russian nozzles because the slope is not a lot. So they're quite thin and straight in a way, and if you snip too much of your bag off, the nozzle is just going to slip out when you start piping. So be very careful with the Russian nozzles. They are tricky like that. Right, I'm now going to demonstrate how we do the two-tone circular method. So creating your little hole for your hand and your fingers to go around, we're now going to use a flat palette knife. And I want to create a circular two-tone where I've got the orange on the outside and yellow on the inside. So you're literally just going to scoop up a bit of your orange, and we're going to line the inside of our bag. So with your palette knife, go right down to the top end of your nozzle. Don't worry about going into the nozzle. It doesn't have to be equal thickness all around. Try to get it similar, so not a massive blob on one side and nothing on the other side, but just roughly the same. Okay, so we've now sort of built a wall of colour in our piping bag, and we're now going to drop another colour in there, which is going to be yellow. So from the sunflower yellow we made, take a nice big blob, drop it right in the middle, use your thumb to just get the buttercream off. And now I'm just going to show you a little trick to do this. Bring your piping bag up again, and we're going to give it a little shake. So literally shake your bag, and that's just making the yellow buttercream go straight down in the middle of your orange wall. Squeeze it down, pull your tip tight, and You already see the yellow coming through. So that is our circular two-tone. As we're going to start piping, the orange is going to come through on the sides, and you'll see on the outside of your petals orange, and in the middle your yellow. So that's your circular two-tone. Next up, we're going to do an accentuated dual edge, staying with our orange. Smaller tip for this one, so just snipping off a tiny bit of your nozzle. Piping bag, drop in your nozzle, piping tip first. There we go, pull it tight. So for the accentuated dual edge, we're not using buttercream for the second color, we're using gel food coloring. So I'm going to fill this bag with orange, and I want to have 2 red stripes on the outer sides of my petal. So if you have a food safe brush or paintbrush, use this. It's just going to make your life a little bit easier to do this. If you don't have a food brush, then a toothpick is just as good. So try that out as well. So we're going to add a little bit of red on both sides of our bag. I like to use the seam in my piping bags, which just gives you a little pathway for the gel color to run down. Just assist in the process. So we're going to drop a little bit of red on the side. Perfect. So that's a little bit too much. I'm going to take half of that to the other side, and we're literally going to paint a stripe right down from the top of your nozzle. So as you can see, we've got a line of red on that side, and directly opposite, another line of red on this side. And that is going to be your accentuated stripes for your flower. Okay, we're literally just going to squeeze your buttercream down, and it will pick up the color on the sides. So you can see the color stripe on both sides. Just give it a twist. And that is your accentuated dual edge ready to use. Right, next up, we're going to look at a nice, bright, natural green. We need quite a lot of this because you use green everywhere in your flowers. You use it for the centers, you use it for leaves around the sides, you use it for the insides. Right, for my greenery, my leaves, I'm going to use Pro Gel colors again, the leaf green, the olive green, and believe it or not, a bit of red. You see the pattern here, right? The red is coming in everywhere. So let's start. The olive green gives you a really nice green, but I like to add just a bit of brightness, which you get with the leaf green. So a nice big blob of olive green. I'm just going to mix that in to show you what it looks like. Again, you can see I'm using the same bowl. I've got some yellow in there, I've got the orange going on. That's absolutely fine for your green. If you look in nature at any type of leaf, you'll actually see it's got a lot of orange and yellow and brown shades in it. So don't feel like you have to use a new bowl for it. Right, that's a nice olivey moss green. That's not really the color I want to use for my leaves. I want a bit bolder, a bit brighter than that. So we're going to add a bit of leaf green. So we're just adding a nice squirt of leaf green. This is not an exact science. You don't have to measure out how much you add. My only tip would be, if you're unsure, use less to start with, because you can always add. Whereas if you start with too much of a color, you can't take it out. Right, this is becoming very nice. Dark, bright green with a hint of olive in it, very nice. We can probably stop at this color. I like to add just a little bit of red, and the red creates a bit of a dirty look, if I can describe it like that, which is just that little bit closer to nature. So as with our orange and yellow, it's going to be the tiniest of drops of red. And you can almost immediately see it almost takes that, I want to say shine, it takes that brightness just a level down to make it that nice natural leaf green that we want for our flowers. Okay, so I'm going to show you another circular two-tone with the green, and then we're also going to look at a two-tone single outer edge and multiple accentuated stripes with the green. Getting your nozzle, piping bag, snipping off the end. There we go, pull it nice and tight. Using a clean palette knife for this one, we're going to just scoop up a bit of green, smear it on the inside wall of your piping bag. If you feel your nozzle moving, just grab the nozzle with your little finger on the outside there so it stops moving around. Okay, we've got a nice wall of green. And for this one, I'm going to fill it with white. Nice big blob of white right in the middle. Give it a little shake, my insider tip. Pull your nozzle tight and just squeeze down. There we go. Another bag with your circular two-tone, so whatever you pipe is going to have green on the outside and white in the middle. We're now going to do a two-tone single outer edge, which I use a lot for my peonies. We're going to use a palette knife, but a little pointy one like that, because we want to make a nice and neat stripe in the piping bag with a different color. And then we're going to add a second color for the multicolor effect. So right on the tip of your pointy palette knife, take a bit of green. Again, I like to use the seam of your piping bag. It just makes it a little bit easier to know where to go. So go down right to the top end of your nozzle. And you basically paint a stripe of green buttercream. The thicker you make this stripe, the more you'll see the color coming out. So if you literally just want the frill of your petal to be a different color, you just paint a very, very thin stripe of color, yeah. Okay, so we've got our stripe of green, and we're now going to fill it with yellow. Right, so drop in your yellow color. Use your fingers around the bag to help you get the buttercream off your spoon. You'll notice I'm doing it on the opposite side of my stripe because you don't want to mess up your stripe just yet. There we go. Right, so now you've got your stripe there. So with your fingers on the opposite side, just gently squeeze your color down. And you see it sits nice and neat next to your green, and then you can just go from the top, squeeze everything down, pull your tip tight, twist your bag, and there you have it. So your stripe is always at the narrow end of your tip, which means that is the outer edge of your petal. Don't do it on the fat end of your tip because that is the base of your petal that's sitting against the cupcake. So color right at the narrow end. If you've done it the wrong way around and you get to piping your flower, just twist your nozzle. Right, sticking with the green, I'm going to show you multiple accentuated stripes, which I typically use for greenery and leaves. Now you'll see me using a slightly different bag right now. This is quite a strong bag, and I want to use a stronger bag because I'm going to use a coupler. This is the Wilton small coupler, and basically what you can do with a coupler is you can very easily change the nozzles that you use on the same color. So because green is such a universal color that you use in your flowers, we're going to use quite a few different nozzles with green. So a coupler works really well, otherwise you're going to go through like 10 bags just to use green. So let me show you how you do this. I'm going to snip off the end. The bottom end of your coupler goes in first. There we go. Now the next bit of the coupler you literally screw on like that. Nice and tight. Add the first nozzle you want to use with this color and put your top on. There we go, nice and tight. So in this bag, I'm going to add multiple stripes of gel color, and I'm going to mainly use a nice bright green, and you know what's coming, red. So we're going to add that. Use your food safe paintbrush, or as I said before, if you don't have one of those, toothpicks work really well. Some blobs of color. Going to do red at the same time. Now, the stripes that you do with greenery doesn't have to be in any particular place in your piping bag. It doesn't need to be against a certain edge of your nozzle. If the purpose of this, which we are using it for, is literally to use it for some leaves and greenery that will complement your flowers, it doesn't actually matter where you put your stripes. It is just to add another dimension and color to your leaves. Just rotate your bag, make a few stripes right down to the bottom, the top end of your nozzle. There we go. That will be a mix of green and red now because we've done it all together. And we're literally going to scoop up our green and add it to this bag. So as you can see, there's quite a lot going on here, green and red stripes all over. And it's just going to give you a nice natural look to your leaves that you will use with your flowers. One thing to notice with your coupler, don't overfill your bag. That's why I'm only adding a little bit, and we'll add more green at a later stage when we pipe our flowers. There's quite a lot of pressure going through such a big thing at the end of your piping bag. So if you've got a lot of buttercream in your piping bag, it's going to rip. So work with a tiny little amount, and you can always add more to your bag when you need it. Right, now we're going on to brown and then black. We'll do the two straight after each other because they working with the same colors. We only need a tiny bit of brown. We're not doing a whole flower with brown, so I'm literally just going to have a tiny bit of that to work with. Pro Gel brown, we're going to add quite a lot of this. I'm making this for my sunflower, and the center of your sunflower is actually quite a dark brown, not quite black, but almost. So I'm adding quite a bit. Push against the sides, just mix your colors in. We're still in the same bowl with our orange and green and yellow. It doesn't matter because it just gets taken up in the brown. You don't see it at all. I'm going to add a little bit more brown to that because I want it darker. Remember though, if you're going to do this to leave the cake for a couple of days before you eat it, your dark colors will go darker. So just keep that in mind. There we go. That's a nice dark brown for the center of our sunflower. And I'm just going to pop this in the bag without any multicolor effects because there's not a lot of multicolor effects you can add with brown. Use your thumb. There we go, that's our brown ready for use in our sunflower. Moving on to black. Black is one of those things that are deceivingly difficult to get right. Even experienced cake makers will ask how to get black all the time. I'm on a few cake related groups on social media and it's a popular topic that comes up all the time. So we're working with white vanilla buttercream right now, and therefore I'm going to color it brown to start with before we attempt getting black. The other trick you can use is also to use chocolate buttercream to start with, which is brown already from the cocoa powder in the buttercream, but we're going to add some brown gel color to this. Don't be shy. You want it to be quite dark because you want it to eventually be black. Okay, that's a nice dark brown. And this is the first time I'm going to deviate from my Pro Gel colors. I have experimented a lot with what to use to get black, and the Sugar Flare Extra Black is the one to go for. It is much easier. You're not going to use a whole bottle to get the color you want. So definitely invest in Sugar Flare Extra Black. The only con of this one is it's not a tube, so just get a toothpick or something to get it out of your tub. It looks like tar, look at that, it's so thick. Again, don't be shy. We're only working with a tiny bit of buttercream, but I do wanted black for a flower I'm doing later. Black is also a really useful color to mix in with any of your other colors. If you ever want just that shade darker, a darker blue, a darker purple, just a touch, almost like we've used the red up until now, like literally a pinprick of black can give you a nice darker shade with almost any other color. So don't be scared to use it in any of your other color mixings. Right, so you can see it's gone like a charcoaly color now. I'm going to add just a little bit more black, and then another little tip, I'm going to pop it in the microwave and heat it up, because heat and time develops your dark colors. So after it's in the microwave, it's going to go even darker black. You just pop a little bit more in. We'll pop it in the microwave for about 5 or 10 seconds, literally until you see your buttercream just about starts to melt. And then we're going to give it a good stir all of the color back into your buttercream, and then let it sit out in room temperature to come back to the consistency you need for your flower. Okay, so we've popped it in the microwave for about 8 seconds because we're working with very little buttercream right here. And as you can see, it's gone shiny, just about to start melting. And if you now mix this all together, can you already see? It almost looks like your buttercream is splitting because it's too hot now. But it's turning a nice dark black. And we're now going to let this sit out, room temperature, let it firm up again. And over time, it will go pitch black once you've done this. And you've got your nice black buttercream. Easy. On to pink next. Pink is quite an easy color to make, but very popular because it's used for a lot of flowers. Only one to note, which is a tiny bit more difficult, is baby pink. If you want to get a really, really light pink, it's worthwhile adding white to your buttercream first. Get it just that shade lighter, and then you add the tiniest amounts of pinks. Start with a little amount and then add to get a darker color if you want to. For today, we're going to use quite a dark pink for our flowers. So I'm using the Pro Gel Claret color, which gives you a nice cerise pink color. And you can use quite a bit, don't be shy. I've got quite a lot of buttercream in here as well because I need a lot of it. Right, workout for the day. Get your muscles ready. With pink, I find when you start mixing the color in, you go, oh my goodness, it's too much. But just keep mixing, because with pinks, the color actually goes a little bit lighter the more you mix it. So don't have a fright when you start, because it looks really, really dark. I'm going to have to put this down a bit. Another reason for using your hands when you mix color and not a stand mixer or electric mixer is you can really scoop down to the bottom. And I can see I've got some white left at the bottom there. So it's nice to scoop down. With the electric mixer, you always end up with a layer of white buttercream right at the bottom. It just doesn't get mixed in. So from the very dark color we started with, you can see it's a nice cerise pink that we end up with. So it does, for some reason, pink goes lighter as you mix it in. And this is a really, really nice colour for roses and ranunculus that we're going to use in a minute. Okay, so with the pink, I'm going to show you the accentuated edge method for filling your piping bags. And I'm going to fill it in a way that I use for my roses. Pink is obviously a very popular colour for a rose, and it looks so nice. So we're going to snip off a bit of the bag. Right, that's perfect. Now for the accentuated edge, we're going to put a stripe of gel colour in our piping bag. And as before, you want it at the narrow edge of your piping tip, which is the outer edge of your flower petal. So wrap your piping bag around your hand inside out to have a nice grip on it. We're going to use exactly the same colour that we've used to colour our buttercream with, and we're going to do a stripe in this bag. So it's basically just going to give you a darker edge of your existing colour for this flower petal. You can use a different colour as well. I have done yellow with a green edge before, which looked really nice with a rose. So we're going to drop in just a drop of colour. Again, I'm using the seam of my piping bag, which just gives you that little groove to help your gel colour go down. Food safe paintbrush, and just go right down to the top edge of your piping nozzle. Okay, so a nice single line of your gel food colour. Once you add your buttercream to the bag, the buttercream is going to push that colour through the nozzle. So don't worry about going into the nozzle yourself. And we're going to add our buttercream. You'll notice I'm using a blue bag again, which is a stronger version. And it's simply because the bag I'm filling right now, I'm going to use for a number of different flowers. So the pressure on this particular bag is going to be quite a lot, so you want a nice strong bag. Push it down from the top. And let me just show you, so you've got your nice dark line at the end, in line with the narrow edge of your nozzle. Again, if you've done it in the wrong way, just twist your nozzle in the bag, it's not a problem. Don't overfill your bag because it becomes really difficult to pipe. You want to have, this is almost the maximum I can handle, where it's a little bit more than the shape of my hand. Any more than this, and you're going to really struggle to control your nozzle. So rather fill your bag later with more buttercream if you need it. And that is your accentuated edge. Right, we're going to put our pink aside. I am using this for more flowers later. And the last colour I want to show you right now is red. For red, we are going to start with pink. Red is one of those colours again, which is deceivingly difficult to get right. Let me just, I think that's about enough. And it's easier to get red from a pink colour. If you add red straight to your white buttercream, you straight off start with a pink colour because white and red gives you pink. So if you start with pink first, you give yourself a much easier base to work from to get red. So we're going to add a nice amount of pink. Mix that in. And we're going to use a very similar method than we use for black to get a red colour buttercream. Okay, get your red. This time, don't be shy with your red. Everywhere else where I've used the red, we've used a tiny prick of red because it's got such a big effect on a different color like yellow. But when you want to get your actual buttercream completely red, don't be shy, just squeeze it out. So we're going to use quite a lot. So that's quite a generous helping of red food coloring. But now, as I start mixing it, you can immediately see the pink is going red. And that's why you start with a pink base. It just makes your life so much easier. Right, so that is already quite a nice red. I'm quite happy with that, and I would be happy to actually just use it like this. But I wouldn't describe this as a bright red. It's sort of a maroony color. So we're going to pop this in the microwave for about 10 seconds, just until your buttercream starts to melt. It will have a little shine to it. Don't completely melt it to liquid. And then your red color is going to develop even further. So this was 13 seconds in the microwave to be exact. And you can see the shine where the buttercream is starting to melt. So if we now just give it a good stir. Unfortunately, if you use the microwave method, it does change the consistency of your buttercream, and you're going to end up with a droopy buttercream like this. You cannot pipe with this. It will need to stand out in room temperature until it's back to your stiff consistency that you need. But I am very happy with that. That is a nice red. And as with all the other dark colors, it's going to develop further over time. So leave it out and you're going to have a very, very nice dark red color. That's our red. So I'm now going to show you how to make baby blue. Baby blue is one of those colors that's slightly tricky as well. We're starting with a base of white vanilla buttercream. But let me show you, if I say white vanilla buttercream, it's not really white. It's got a very, very yellow hue to it. That bottle is white. The buttercream is not really white. So if you want to get a very light blue and you add blue straight to this buttercream, you're actually going to get green, because blue and yellow makes green. So to start, for a baby blue color, we're going to add a bit of white food coloring first. So I'm using the Wilton white icing color. And don't be shy with it, just give it a good little squirt. And we're going to mix that in first. If you need a big batch of a very light baby color, baby blue, you can add this white coloring straight to your stand mixer. I often do that if I do a whole bouquet of baby shades. And it's just easier to get your whole batch a bit lighter to start with. So you can see that is already much whiter than it was. Still a little bit of yellow, but much whiter, and it's just going to give you a better base to work from for baby blue. So the key is start with a tiny bit of color. You can always add more, but if you start with a lot and it's too blue, it's very difficult to take it out. So let's start with just a tiny drop of blue, and I'm using the Rainbow Dust Sky Blue. So just a tiny smear of blue, and let's mix that in. You can see why I'm saying start with only a little bit. The same goes for baby pink. Just start with a tiny bit. You can always add a bit more. Look at that nice color. So there you have a beautiful, very, very light baby blue. If you want it a little bit darker, because that is really light, if you have this against white, it might not show up too well. So I'm going to add a little bit more. But if this is the shade you wanted, that is a beautiful baby blue. I'm going to add just a drop of Pro Gel navy blue as well, because for the particular flower I want to make. This is the problem with these Rainbow Dust Pro Gel sometimes. They bubble out, but they are in general a pretty good option. You can actually see the stripes of the different blues as I'm mixing it in. As I said before, I actually very rarely use a single color when I do my mixing of my colors. I just find you get a better shade when you mix colors. I'm very happy with that. That's the baby blue I would like. It's blue enough that it's going to show off against white, and you're going to have a very nice contrast in baby blue. So next we're going to look at purple. Purple is a color a lot of people struggle with. I personally think it might be the brand. I have never had a problem with the Rainbow Dust Pro Gel Purple. So definitely if you're using a different brand, you struggle to get purple, I definitely recommend this brand. So I'm going to start making lilac just to show you can have a very light purple. But for the flower I want to pipe today, I'm actually going to add then more to show you a really nice dark purple as well. So we're just starting with a drop. You'll see I'm using the same bowl that I've just used for baby blue as well, because certain colors work very well together. Just make sure you're scraping off all the white from the sides. You can see what a beautiful light purple that is. It's a really nice color. So I'm going to add more now to show you a nice bold purple. But I just wanted to show you it is equally easy to get a lilac. Right. So just give it a good squirt, don't be shy. As with any dark color, your purple will develop over time. So just keep that in mind if you are making a cake for only collection or consumption tomorrow or the day after. Your purple might still go even darker overnight. Wonderful. So that's a nice bright purple. You can get it even darker than this, just squirt out a bit more. I'm going to stop at this because I want to show you another technique for filling a piping bag, and I want my purple to be just light enough still that you're going to see the multicolored effects that we're going to fill the bag with. So, grabbing a bag, piping bag, we're going to snip off the end. Now the technique I'm going to show you now is something I use for my lily petals. It's called the two-tone double edge with accentuated middle technique for filling your bag. It's probably my most complex way of filling a bag, and I'm going to show you exactly why we're doing it like we are by looking at some lily petals as well. Okay. So the tip I'm using for a lily is the tip that looks like a little bird beak, and we'll talk about this more when in the advanced course when we actually do the lily. But you want to know where on the tip is going to be the sides of your petals and where is the middle. And for this particular tip, the inwards ends of your nozzle is going to be the sides of your petal, and the little sharp point is the middle of your petal. So what we're going to do, let me just grab a lily for you. I happen to have a lily in the house today. So a lily's petals is white on the outside, going darker with the color towards the middle, and it's got quite a dark stripe going right through the center of the petal, and that is the effect we're going to try to mimic with how we fill our piping bags. So I wanted to show you so that you've got a vision in your head of what we're trying to replicate. Okay, so fold your piping bag over your fingers so that it creates a little crater for yourself. Have your nozzle in the correct way. Remember, the lowest point is going to be our sides, and then the sharp end is going to be the middle of our petal. So for the sides of our petal, we want a white color. So grab your pointy palette knife. And we're going to just grab a little bit of white and smear it on both sides in line with the lowest point of your nozzle. Just hold your nozzle. Okay, there's our one side. Now we want to be in exactly the opposite place of our bag on the other side. The thicker you make your white color down the sides, the more white you will see on your petal. So if you want it to be quite accentuated, just use more color. You don't have to go into your nozzle. Just make sure you're sort of touching the top end of your nozzle with your palette knife. Okay. Okay, so there we've got two white stripes on either side of your bag, and I've twisted my nozzle, I'll show you at the end, so that the lower end of your nozzle is in line with those two white stripes. Next step is we're going to add a gel color stripe, which is going to be that dark line that you see in the middle of your petal. So let's do that on that side. So for a lily, you ideally want your color gel stripe to be the same color than your actual petal, because that is what it looks like in nature. Hold your nozzle. So now you just want to aim in the right place for your bag. It needs to be exactly in the middle of your two white stripes. I've just made a drop there. And we're going to take, so it's already running down, so if you've got a lot of time, you can just sit like this. And it will run down in a straight line all the way to your nozzle. I don't have that much time, so I'm just going to take a food-safe paintbrush and just help that down all the way to the nozzle. There we go. So we've got a gel color line in the middle of our two white stripes. Now we're just grabbing our color, and at the opposite end of your gel color stripe, just use your thumb and just get this into your piping bag. Pull your nozzle tight. Make sure everything is aligned. So the inwards bit of your nozzle is aligned with your white stripe there, and on the other side there. And the pointy end of your nozzle is in line with your gel color stripe. So I'm just going to pipe a stripe of this for you to show what it looks like. With any piping bag, you need to pipe a little bit first before the real color comes out, because remember, you've only done your colors to the top end of your nozzle. So it needs to push out a little bit before the proper effect comes out. So I'm just going to squeeze until I get the right. There it starts. There we go. So there you can see the effect of doing that. We've got like a little white frill on the side here that's blending in to meet your purple color, and right in the middle of your petal you've got a dark stripe. Right, next up I'm going to show you three colors that I typically use in my succulent collection. It's going to be a sand color, because with succulents you want to mimic and create a bit of sand on your cupcakes. It's going to be a mint green, which is quite typical to a succulent petal. And we're going to do a rusty sort of desert color brown for one of our flowers as well. So first up, the sand. So for sand, I am using the Rainbow Dust cream gel color. It might sound a little bit unintuitive to use cream, but that is giving you the right color. You literally just want your vanilla buttercream to just have a tiny bit of brown to it. So let's add a bit of this. This is a very interesting gel color, because you look at the color and you think, oh my goodness, that's very dark. But it doesn't stay like that. In general, when you use the cream color for anything else, I've used it for fondant before as well. If I need to make fondant toppers that shouldn't be quite stark white, you can use it to just get your sort of beigey color on fondant, and just use a tiny, tiny amount, and it just takes that white edge off. So you can see what I mean with that gel color. It comes out and it looks like brown, but it is, I promise you, it is cream. So there you've got a nice sand color. I'm happy with that. Okay, next up I'm going to show you the mint green, which is a really useful color to do for succulents. Because succulents doesn't have your typical sort of forest tropical green. It's got a really light green. So to get that right, I'm using a combination of greens again. I'm using the Pro Gel Gooseberry and a tiny drop of the Pro Gel leaf green to get the right color. Less is more with this one, so start with just a little bit. And I'm just going to work in one color at a time because I want to show you the difference when you add a drop of that leaf green. It does really bring it to life a little bit. Okay, so that is your gooseberry color. And you can already see, because I've used very little of it, it's a nice baby mint green. But I just want a little bit of a kick to it. So I'm going to add just a drop of the leaf green. When I say a drop, I mean a pinprick. That is how much I'm using, just that little pinprick you can see on my spoon. You can see that leaf green has got a massive effect. That's what I'm saying, just a pinprick. Otherwise you're going to end up with a tropical green color. Okay. And hopefully you can see the difference, but that is still mint green, but just with that little bit of brightness added to it, so it's just got a bit of a kick. Now for this one, I'm actually going to show you another example of the two-tone with a single outer edge method for filling your piping bag. With filling your bags, you always want to get your bag just right. Because if your bag is too far towards the end of your nozzle there, it means there will be a gap between your nozzle and your bag at the back end. And therefore the buttercream will push in between your nozzle and your bag. That's why you need to get it just right. And equally, if your bag is too far towards the end, with the pressure of pushing against your bag, it might slip off or burst. So sort of in the middle of your nozzle is always the right position to have it. So for my single outer edge, I'm going to use a bit of pink, and using your pointy palette knife again, and it's just going to be on one side of your bag, just a bit like that, right from the top of your nozzle. Just making a thin stripe of pink. Just that little bit more, right at the end, there we go. So a nice pink stripe just on the one side of your bag. And we're going to fill the rest with our mint green. So on the opposite side of your stripe, just use your fingers in your bag to help push the buttercream off your spoon. Squeeze it in a bit. And then on the opposite side of your stripe, we're just going to swipe down until it's filled the bag, and then you can go all the way from the top like that. Pull your nozzle tight. And remember, with this method, you want your stripe to be at the narrow end of your nozzle. If you didn't do it like that to start with, you can just twist your nozzle in the bag. Right, last colour for our succulent selection is what I like to refer to as a rusty brown or a desert brown. And there's no sort of fixed formula for this. This is a bit of playing with your colours, to be honest. So we're going to use a mixture of browns, pinks and greens, and you keep mixing until you feel you are happy with the colours. I'll do it one at a time to show you what we get to, but usually I just like to lob it all in and play around with the colours. Not too much of your brown, because otherwise it will overpower your colour. You'll see I'm using the same bowl as the mint green that we've done, because I'm adding green to this rusty brown mix in any case. So by using the leftovers, you can literally scoop up your leftovers and mix it into your brown. That is fine for this one. Okay, there we've got a light brown colour. Let's add a bit of pink. Again, not too much, otherwise we don't want to end up with a batch of pink either. Okay, so that's like a, I would probably describe it as a dirty pink. You can already see the desert colour coming on. And let's play around with a bit of green. Just a drop. There we go. I'm being very careful with my green here, but I think I can be more generous. You can see the green shading that now as well. I'm quite happy with that colour already. I think I'm going to add a tiny bit of brown just to get it a shade darker, and then that's it. Okay, just a drop of brown. The brown is quite potent, so if you're not careful, you'll just turn up with a chocolate colour. There we go. Okay, so you just want it to be different enough as well from your sand, because it is going to be piped onto our sand colour. And just to remind you what our sand looked like, there's our sand. So it will definitely be a contrast to our sand. So I'm quite happy with that as a sort of a rusty brown stone colour. Right, so just to show you the result from all our multicolour bag effects, I'm just going to pipe a little bit on a tray just to show you what it will look like. With our Russian tips, you just have to squeeze a little bit out before the colour comes through. But that will show you orange on the outside and yellow on the inside. Let's do another one. Beautiful. This is your circular two-tone. If I show you the accentuated edge next. With all your piping bags, once you've filled it, you have to squeeze a bit of the front buttercream out before you see the effect. So let's just do that. So once you've squeezed a bit out of your bag, this is your accentuated edge. Nice pink color with just that shade of a darker pink right at the edge of your petal. Very useful to have. I use it for a lot of my flowers. Now the same type of technique in your piping bag, but with both stripes on the side, so this is dual accentuated edge. Again, squeeze just to get the color to come out initially. My one stripe is out already. There's the other one. So as you can see, we've got a red line on both sides of your striped buttercream, where we've got the nice orange and the red, which is really working well with your orange to give it that darker edge for your petal. Dual accentuated edge. The multiple accentuated stripes is the one we filled with the green. With this one, you're going to have to push quite a lot to get stuff out because we are using a coupler. Right, it's actually quite difficult to see with this particular nozzle because this is your grass nozzle, but it is coming through, so let me show you. You can actually see it. On the sides there's a little bit of a green shade coming through. The redness coming through, which almost looks like a bronzy color on your petals or your leaves or your grass, which is exactly what we want from the multiple stripes around your bag. So the effect of this bag was really to add that natural color rather than a particular accentuated edge on a leaf. There we go, you can see the multicolor there. This was the two-tone single outer edge. And that is what it will look like. So just to compare the difference between your accentuated edge, where we use the gel color, and your two-tone outer edge, where we actually use a different color buttercream to do your edge, you can see you can make your edge much thicker, and it's got a very different texture to it than the color on that edge. So it's your two-tone single outer edge. Now the technique I'm going to show you now is something I use for my lily petals. It's called the two-tone double edge with accentuated middle. So there you can see the effect of doing that. We've got like a little white frill on the side here that's blending in to meet your purple color, and right in the middle of your petal you've got a dark stripe. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. Please remember to leave me a review when you have a minute, either on social media or Google. You can also subscribe to my Blooming Bakes YouTube channel for complimentary videos on how to make the best American buttercream for piping flowers, as well as cupcake recipes and lots more. See you soon.